Welcome back to The Hell With This, where you've never heard of
Wait,
the movies and the points don't
We've
matter.
never said the title of the podcast. I've cut out like every single time I've said it.
Okay. I mean, should we just come up with a new name then?
Why would we do that?
Because we haven't even used the name that we have.
I figured we'd wait until episode like 100 or something.
Wow.
I just didn't want to end up like our buddies over at Down in Front who couldn't use Down in Front anymore because somebody on the internet said, "Hey,
I
own that."
Yeah. I own those words together in that
I
order.
own. Don't even get me started. What are people going to do in like 300 years?
When we're out of words and everybody
out
owns
of
everything.
words. Everyone still thinks there's original ideas. They write something and then someone's like, "Oh, hey, by the way, nope, sorry, this was somebody else's thing." And copyright law, in theory, should, after a certain amount of time, pass on to public domain. But the way shit works now is
you can always renew it.
You've got everything Disney owns should basically just be at this point public domain, and a lot of their properties are.
Well, here's
they
what
were
I
public
think.
domain when they used them to begin with.
In 100 years, some people are going to be living on Mars, and they'll have their own law, and their own internet, and their own everything.
And they'll say "fuck you" and launch 500 nukes at Earth.
I don't know. It's possible. They
Yeah.
might need those nukes to power their cities or whatever. I'm
Right.
not sure how that'll work.
Right.
But it's so far away. It's gonna be like, oh, what are you gonna do? Send the Earth police to Mars to arrest us for your copyright infringements? Go fuck yourself. It'll take you 50 years to get here. We're gonna be dead by the time you want to arrest me.
What are your thoughts on copyright, Mark?
It's important, but it is abused.
Yes.
I think it's important that people have ownership over the stuff that they make, if not the ideas that they have, because they have to have it in physical form somewhere to make it real. But I mean, there are lawyers whose job it is just to copyright troll people and say, get in touch with newegg.com and say, that technology you're using for your shopping cart, we own that. Pay us money or else. And thankfully, Newegg shut all that shit down. I think they actually countersued and they put those assholes out of business.
Oh, it seemed like I remember that.
That was a while ago.
That was a long time ago.
But there's other people doing the same thing all the time.
Well, it's
all
just
the
people
time.
just buy up all the patents they can.
Yeah.
Even the most worthless ones, and just averages out
I
into
guess-
lawsuits and
I guess
legalities and
patent trolls are the eventual consequence of copyright law, because patents really are just ideas down on paper.
right.
They're just diagrams of a thing that maybe hasn't even been built in reality. And in case somebody ever actually comes up with that thing and really builds it, then they can say, "Oh, no, you didn't do that. I did that. Give me some money now."
Right.
Fuck that shit.
Which-
If they wrote it down on paper and never did anything with it, you lost the idea.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So basically, just hardware companies and software companies should just hire futurists who come up with crazy things and figure out how they would make them work realistically.
Yeah.
Plot that shit out. You do have to.
They should actually build at least one and make sure it works before getting the patent.
Yeah.
They should have a prototype.
Well, and
Not
there's so
just a
many
design.
variations on patents, especially now with all the genetics stuff. There's like variations on how you recode something. Like if you do it this way, then you owe these people. If you do it this way, you owe these people.
And if two different methods come up with the same result, do they have to have a legal battle over which one
Well, and
gets
they're
to stick
talking
around?
about it, like now, like if a human were built with this genetic thing, they would technically be the property of the people who coded that shit to begin with.
Right. Hello, David from Prometheus.
Like, what the fuck? I know we're like way off tangent. We're watching a World War II movie.
Does it count as a tangent when you haven't really started the other thing?
No,
I feel like
probably
now
not.
the movie is the
I
tangent.
could go on off on another tangent about all this because I was recently made privy of a potential job for me.
Ooh.
And
Genetic resequencer?
I looked it up on IMDb what it was. It was a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I felt like I was reading a synopsis of my own feature film that I'd wrote like 10 years ago. And
which one was this?
But then I was like, probably. I know I've told you about it.
Okay.
I won't get into the details of it. It was an idea I originally like had started writing out, and I did write it actually.
Okay.
In 1999, the first time I wrote this screenplay, and it involved all the things.
That's like the start of MP2K.
Yeah, this was
Shit.
This was my first feature film that I wrote. It was the first time I got, beginning to end screenplay. Boom, done.
Yeah.
But I was 19. I didn't understand registration or copyright or anything like that, so I didn't register it. I think I have the only copy I have is actually a printed copy.
Yeah.
Of it. The only thing that dates it is just how shitty it is compared to
They'd
my
have
writing
to
style
carbon
now.
date it to prove it's
Right.
really old.
But 3, maybe 4 years later, a guy wrote a book series in like early 2000s that has a very similar. His books are like based on the idea.
That mother-grabbing bastard.
But it's not. My story was never about that idea. It was just part of the story.
Okay.
But it's a very integral part of the story.
So it's basically this guy took one idea from your screenplay and ran with it.
I don't think he I think we just came up with the same idea in different places at the time. But I'm just saying, like, the thing that irritates me is like, well, fuck, it's like,
well,
now I basically can't. I wonder, like, can I make this? To me, like, the concept isn't that original.
Right, now that somebody else has
this other guy made it like
yeah.
the premise of his thing, which makes it kind of.
Is it the Hunger
Games?
Games?
Almost like no. It's almost like the ownership of his thing.
Uh-huh.
And anyway, after I wrote an updated version of the script in 2007, I was living with you and Nick at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent it to my buddy Mike. And I didn't have any idea that this book series had been written in between. When I did the first draft, which was completely night and day different, but had this concept in it.
Mm-hmm.
99, book series 2002, 2003. And then I wrote the other script, the updated version, in like 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Sent it to my buddy Mike. He goes, "Oh, you should probably read this book series because it's like the same damn thing, or at least the part of it."
Son of a bitch.
And I went, "Well, are you fucking kidding me?" And then he sent me the synopsis, and I was reading it. And it was weird. It was one of those weird things where you read it and you go, "How the fuck do we have the exact same concept on certain things?"
Mm-hmm.
And I
just set it in the old West, it'll be fine.
It bummed me out. I was like, well, how can I make this work? I mean, I wasn't too worried at the same time because I was like, well, it was more of a concept. It wasn't the script, and you can't really copyright concepts.
Mm-hmm.
So I refused, for better or worse, to even look at the guy's series because I didn't want to have any.
You didn't want to get further down the.
I didn't want to know what it
down
was.
That road, yeah.
And I still haven't. I just knew that it was similar, and then I just kind of forgot about it until I got a job offer
for the movie.
A potential job offer for the television series that's being built out of it.
But it's
by a very popular company with a red logo that releases TV series all in one day.
Netflix.
You just had to
just beep it out,
I'm
Dan.
just saying. Anyway, yeah, beep. Yeah, that fucking company, Netflix. Yeah. Anyway, so of course everyone and their mother will see it, and now it's like, even if I'm sure there's gonna be 50 Spawns with similar ideas, and there actually have been films in the past that kind of had similar plots.
Yes.
It's not
happens all the time.
It happens all the time, and but you always hear about these stories of people writing shit and then suing movies. Like, oh, I wrote this, and like,
suing the studio.
Is it just a case of the same thing? Like, we came up with, I mean, I believe that everybody as a whole, as they grow together in a culture, if you come up with something, you don't make it immediately. I feel like within 10 years you're going to see someone else make something very similar.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it is.
Sometimes it actually is malicious. That happened to my girlfriend.
And?
She designed stuff for a small company one time, and very soon after having a meeting with a larger company, oh, look what was on the shelves of this larger company.
Wow.
They basically took the whole idea and made retroactive designs to, quote, prove that they came up with it all by themselves.
Wow.
But they could have just made, like, you know, what do you call that? Reverse engineering.
Mm-hmm.
This
shit happens all the time, too. And
all the time.
So malicious.
Not just with movies.
It's interesting how people get away with it. And I feel like they just know they can. It's just like the patent trolls and why Newegg went up against them, because Newegg knew that the people who were getting sued would not be able to defend themselves.
Yeah. Well,
in
exactly.
That case.
Newegg was big enough to fight back.
Yeah.
And all the smaller people, it was kind of like, well, give these people 15 grand or spend 3 times that just trying to make this go away.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Moving on to our World War II movie.
Another one. What was the last one he did? Oh, the last one he did was Grandma's Boy. The one before that was Paths of Glory. That was World War I movie.
Yeah.
So maybe next time you can do like a Vietnam movie?
Sure.
Or a Korean War thing?
Does that mean I have to pick another kind of Grandma's Boy-ish? Should we do like Big Daddy and then do World War III?
I'm feeling a little nauseated.
Yeah. Anyway, World War II movie called Black Book, which is, I don't know if that's actually the foreign title, because it is a foreign film.
Schwarzer Buch.
It's the first foreign picture I saw directed by the lovely, the wonderful Paul Verhoven.
Is he Dutch? I think he's Dutch.
He's Dutch.
Right.
But, you know, I knew he had some Dutch films early on in his career before he came to America and did Robocop, Basic Instinct, Starship Troopers.
And Hollow Man.
Unfortunately, Hollow Man. Total Recall. Like, his resume is astounding. Like, he was the director of the 80s and 90s, I feel like.
Robocop, I think, is an actual masterpiece.
I
right next to Starship Troopers, yeah.
Yeah, same writer.
Oh.
Ed Newmeyer.
There you go.
I believe. Yes. Sure. And Starship Troopers, I think, is a masterpiece, too. People don't agree with me on that one. But just because the book and the movie are very different.
Yeah.
And apparently they're making a version that's true to the book, which, if that's the case, it's probably going to be boring as hell, because the book is boring as hell.
Is it a sequel, or is it a reboot?
No, it's a reboot.
What the fuck? Why would they reboot Starship
for
Troopers?
the Robert Heinlein.
Yeah, because he has a lot of fans nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Mike. So I this was my first time I've seen him do something where, you know, I don't even know. I think Hollow Man was the last thing I had heard of prior to seeing this.
Right before this one.
So I had just kind of assumed, well, there goes Verhoeven. Like, he was of that era, and he's not coming back, because his movies...
Well, Hollow Man was an effects reel and nothing more.
Basically.
Yeah.
Well, this kind of goes back into our little conversation we had during the Oliver Stone commentary on
like maybe he
Talk
was just
Radio,
washed
because maybe he just was a director of that era, and when effects came along, he couldn't figure it out. But then again...
Robocop was all effects, like with all the stop motion stuff. Right.
And but it was... I guess maybe that was stop motion, yeah. But was there any... There was some CGI
very
in that
rudimentary movie. CG.
But
on the
Starship Troopers, which I just saw in the theater, actually, again, 2016.
That was all
and
CG
it was
too.
It looked phenomenal.
Really?
It stood up so well.
I think back on it, and it looks like a PlayStation 1 game.
We watched it. It was like crisp, clean. It looked like, I mean, I'm sure it was like a 2K projection, but it looked fantastic.
Okay.
There was only a few like green screen shots that I was like, but it looked great, and it stood up incredibly well. So it was almost like, for me, like looking back on it, like outside of, if you erase Hollow Man from his later Hollywood career,
if you were to make it invisible, maybe.
Yeah. Yes. And then I think he did another movie before Black Book, even Because Black Book was like mid 2000s, maybe something like that. And we'll look when we watch the movie. We'll see when this movie was actually made.
Mm-hmm.
But and of course, this past year, he was really successful with Elle.
Yes.
Which is probably the only movie I could describe as a rape comedy. Which Verhoeven is kind of known for, that weird sexual deviancy in his films.
I didn't know there was any humor
Basic
to that
Instinct. Movie. It is. It's a dark comedy.
Wow.
About a powerful woman who is raped, and she handles it a little too well.
Okay. Got her an Oscar nom.
It got her nominated for an Oscar, and I saw it with our friend Matt in the theater, and made me feel pretty uncomfortable. I don't understand why the movie was as loved as it was, but it was pretty goddamn funny at times, and like at other times, I was sitting there like in horrified shock watching some of the stuff in the movie, while other people in the audience are just blatantly laughing at
I'm gonna have to check this
rape
one out.
scenes and whatnot, and I'm like, some things you just don't want to touch. So to me, Verhoeven, I've never really thought of him as one of my top 10 movie directors, but I look at his history and how his movies have kind of shaped Hollywood, and I believe he's had more of an effect on people than they realize. Especially because I remember seeing Total Recall and it blowing my mind. That's a movie that does not hold up well, by the way.
Yeah, I think I saw it a few years back, and it was kind of like goofy.
It's goofy. It looks like everything. The production design is super cheap.
Yeah, it feels like they were on a Star Trek set.
But I feel like he understands goofy comedy. I mean, Starship Troopers is a prime example of that.
See you at the party, Richter. Hilarious.
Arnold's eyes popping out of his head during Total Recall.
When I saw that on video as a kid, I had nightmares. I couldn't watch that movie for a long time.
But you watch it now, it's like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's still gross, but it's kind of like, what the fuck?
It's like, what the fuck?
He looks like a Mr. Potato Head, and they're just shooting right out.
So, what is Verhoeven to you?
Ditto.
Yeah?
No, I don't know.
I mean, do you feel strongly about his movie in one way or the other?
I guess...
Did you like Starship Troopers?
Yeah, I like Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
I even liked it before everybody acknowledged that it was being a satire.
Right. So you just liked it because the fascists won the war?
No, I liked it because they were, like...
funny.
Yeah, it was just... At that age, I guess it was just cool to see all the computer-generated bugs. And that was like the first time I saw that many monsters on screen at once. And I was like, holy shit, this is a new kind of movie.
Right.
Holy cow. And I think like all the effects movies that he's done, they were on the cutting edge, and they were really pushing the state of effects. Even the stop-motion stuff in Robocop looks really good.
Yeah.
So I guess I've always looked at Paul Verhoeven for that, and the ultra-violence that he gets into the movies. And a lot of people have spoken out against that because they think it's like desensitizing society and yada yada yada.
Well, it's definitely something we should go into after this.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what kind of shit is in this movie.
But what are you expecting from this movie? Like, not knowing where Verhoeven's... I don't think you've seen anything since, say, Hollow Man. You may not have even seen that.
Unfortunately, I saw Hollow Man. And Kevin Bacon's heat vision dong all over the place.
Isn't that like in every movie anyway that he's in?
Yeah. Free the bacon.
Free the bacon.
I don't know what I'm expecting. I guess it's his Schindler's List. Is it about his home country? Or is it about Germany?
Honestly, it's been so long since I've seen it that I couldn't tell you.
Okay. I don't even know if it's really based on a true story, like real people. So I guess I couldn't call it
I believe
his Schindler's
it
List.
is.
Could could be.
I feel like it's kind of slanderous to make a movie about World War II and not have it be based on some sort of factual concept.
Like Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah. Wait, they didn't shoot Hitler in the face
in a movie theater?
In a burning theater?
A bunch of times? No, I don't think they did. I guess I don't know. I don't know what to expect exactly. Okay. But I'm open to it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Alright, let's fucking do this. Ready?
Hit play.
That was not a very...
We got a C-stand in the way. We can't high five.
Alright. See you on the other side.
Bye.
Juffrouw Stein? Rachel Stein?
Ausgezeichnet.
Elle is de Vries.
Ludwig Münze.
Hoe ver zou je met hem willen gaan?
U bedoelt met hem naar bed?
Alice?
We moeten onderste steen boven.
I mean, I didn't really remember the movie that much, but it's still a hell of a movie considering a movie that, in my opinion anyway, was done by a director seemingly still within their prime.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I would argue performing better than he was at his prime.
Like in the Robocop days.
In the Robocop days.
Well, at least now he has the benefit of experience.
Yes.
Robocop, I mean, I don't know how many movies he made before that, but he did seem to have this, like, young guns kind of an attitude.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go into Hollywood and make a crazy Dutch movie. Yeah.
I wonder how much of him actually set out to... I mean, obviously he did it on purpose in a way. I mean, you can't make that many movies
by accident.
Like maybe one or two, I'd be like, okay, maybe. But it really kind of strikes me as someone who kind of reinvented themselves.
Yeah.
And if I were to see this movie and not know who the director was, I sure as hell wouldn't go, oh, this is Verhoeven.
No, there's nothing about it that screams his name. It's got a lot of like graphic violence with people being shot, but it's not the kind of like ED 209 blowing that businessman apart in the boardroom.
Yeah.
Kind of violence.
Somebody call 911. No, but at the same time, it's interesting because I wouldn't also say, if I watched this and I didn't know who the director was, I couldn't watch this and say, "Oh, this is, like Brett Ratner or."
Yeah, there's some actual feeling put into this movie. It's not just a blockbuster, even though it's it
has its stylings of it's a blockbuster in the sense that he knows how to make a blockbuster.
Right, and it was the most expensive Dutch film ever made. 16 million euros.
A whopping 16 million euros.
Right.
Which, given the size of what we saw, like a Hollywood studio would spend $150 million on this movie.
Like The Sixth Sense cost more than that, I'm sure.
Yeah. That's like going back to the 1986 with Aliens,
Mm-hmm.
and they think they spent $16 million US
Yeah,
on making that at that time.
with budget special effects.
And, euros at the time, 2005, euros are probably worth a little bit more than the dollar.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Probably just about like what they do now, which is a little bit more.
But it's amazing.
Close to 1-to-1. But
It's amazing to do a period war movie, like espionage thriller kind of a thing, with a number of vehicles and guns and costumes and everything that they had in this movie for seemingly such a small amount of money. That's like independent film level money.
this blew me away the first time I saw it. And usually, watching it again now, like, it's still, it may not be as great as what I first thought, but it was still pretty solid to the point that it emotionally affected me, because, like, by the time the main character, like, spoiler, has shit dumped on her, literally, a huge
giant
bucket of
vat
shit,
of-
while she's naked in front of a huge crowd of people being laughed at.
Yeah.
That was like, when I remember seeing that the first time, I think you were in the house. You must have been. Because I was like, what? Like, I felt so bad, and it, like, actually emotionally, like, affected me. This person who's gone through hell.
Right. Yeah. At every turn, things are just going horrible for.
Yeah. I mean,
Except
turns out
for-
World War II kind of sucked.
Except for when she's
For
fucking
a
a
lot
Nazi.
of people.
Who would have thought that, like, forming a relationship with a Nazi captain or whatever
Would have been the...
would have been the highlight of her week.
right? And then she would shed a tear when he was executed.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the movie?
I thought it was really good. I guess I'm sort of ashamed to say that I like it more because I know it was a Verhoeven movie and it doesn't feel like a Verhoeven movie. If it was just somebody or I didn't know or whatever, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's a pretty good movie." I was surprised by how good that movie was. But I'm not going like, "Shit, man, Verhoeven can really make a movie."
Well, it's funny, like, we say that it doesn't feel like one. And I'm thinking now, like, the things that do make it a Verhoeven movie are the things that make this no one else having directed this is the kind of sexual perversions that are in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of naked ladies.
There's some ultra violent, but
I
and
think
not like in the sense like Schindler's List had a
No.
lot of naked ladies.
No.
This is like a little bit more.
Well, when we were watching the movie, there's one scene where, like, our main character's best friend, another secretary at the German office, she's basically distracting a group of German officers by getting naked and covered in champagne on a table. It looks like a fucking rap video.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Jesus, this looks like the fall of Rome. There's just like orgies happening left and right.
Yeah, right.
It's
I mean, maybe that was what he was trying to say.
yeah, I'm sure it was no accident.
Verhoeven has not shied away from nudity in his films.
Striptease or what is it? Showgirls, not striptease.
That's true. Showgirls. Yeah, we forgot to mention that. Showgirls. Yeah, striptease was not him. obviously.
Laughably horrible. Movie.
Showgirls was notorious. I mean, the
Oh, geez. Okay, the cap was
the
on.
scene in Starship Troopers, the co-ed bathroom scene, the shower scene.
And he got naked to shoot that too.
He got naked because he was like, "Oh, you stupid American actors! Like,
Nobody wants to get naked. Fine, I'll get naked too.
you're just so prude." And then he just stripped down naked, like, "Oh, look, it's no big deal."
I'll direct the scene like this if you will act
He
in the scene
probably
like
even
this.
did helicopters with his penis in front of everyone. The lead actress, Karis Van Houten, aka the Red Witch from Game of Thrones, which I don't believe you watched. Do you?
I have not seen it. No.
But that's what I've only seen her in 3 things. This, the Bryan Singer movie with Tom Cruise, Valkyrie, where she played that was made after this. I'm guessing Tom Cruise saw this and said, "Oh, I want that girl in my movie."
And possibly to be my new Scientologist wife.
Right. And knowing how we've in our past conversations about Scientology and Tom Cruise, that's probably how it went. but now she's in Game of Thrones. Also, coincidentally, naked in like half of her scenes.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta feel bad for actresses sometimes. Like, there's a book out there called Take Your Shirt Off and Cry. And that is named after the only things female actors have to do in movies. Take your shirt off and cry. That's the name of a book.
Wow.
I forget who wrote it now, but...
it's funny, like, when I went and saw that Starship Troopers screening at ArcLight a few weeks ago, I guess a couple months now, I brought it up at work beforehand, so we talked about it at lunch, and I was like, I'm going to go see Starship Troopers, and at the time, until I went and saw it, and then they're like, we have a special guest, Verhoeven's here, and so it's Casper Van Dien.
Wow.
And we're going to have a Q&A after the movie. I was like, all right, sweet. So afterwards, Casper Van Dien was up there, and Paul Verhoeven came out and talked about the movie a bit, and then...
Wait, is Casper Van Dien Dutch with a name like that? Van something?
I don't know. He's like a surfer man.
Okay, he's pretty American.
He comes off as pretty much like a California dude.
Like a model.
I don't know
which is why he was cast
or not, but yeah.
Starship Troopers.
He's just like his character in Starship Troopers. It was funny, like halfway through the Q&A, Dina Meyer, who's like one of the main stars she plays Dizzy in Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
She asked a question from the audience.
She was in the audience. They did not invite her to the...
And then...
What the fuck?
Well, Casper Van Dien knew she was there. She just, for whatever reason, wasn't invited for the Q&A.
What a bunch of bastards.
Yeah, right. Speaking of misogyny. They brought her down anyway, and she joined into the crew. But it was interesting listening to... There was a woman in the audience who asked Verhoeven, like... I don't remember the question in particular, and I couldn't really garner like where she was coming from, or if she was trying to figure out if he was a misogynist. I couldn't place what her
question was
meant.
Essentially, why do you do this to all your women characters?
I can't remember what her question was. But she had sat through Starship Troopers, so I don't think she went there to just get through that. Plus, she didn't even know it was a Q&A.
Yeah.
She didn't know it was a Q&A anyway. But anyway, she asked a question, and Verhoeven responded in a way I didn't expect. Coming back to my being at lunch with my coworkers and talking about Verhoeven, and them saying, like my supervisor saying how he felt like Verhoeven was absolutely a misogynist.
Okay.
Verhoeven's response to the girl the woman in the Q&A was that he's like, actually, I identify myself and my sexuality with being a woman.
That's an interesting answer.
And he's like, he answered everything else very succinctly with that coming from that direction. It was a very interesting answer I did not expect.
Yeah.
Saying that he identifies more with women than men. Which I guess, I don't know, I guess when it's not that his female characters have never been weak. I will say that. They've always...
Not even Denise Richards in Starship Troopers? I don't remember what she did in that movie. She was a pilot.
She was a pilot. She wasn't the strongest written, but she certainly didn't strike me as a weak character. She still is a pilot who succeeds and becomes a captain by the end. Basic Instinct. I mean, the thing about these things is they're all powerful women, but they're also kind of Amazing Amy Gone Girl in a way, where they're a little
fucked up,
a little out to get you, like Sharon Stone. And I can't remember Showgirls at all, but it.
Yes, that feminist.
That
parable.
one, yes. So I can't. It's been a long time since I've seen that.
Yeah.
And the partner in RoboCop, like...
Yeah, Nancy Allen.
Nancy Allen had a pretty strong role. Like, it's not that...
Only in the first one,
he
unfortunately.
does give women very strong roles. He also does like to, coincidentally, see them naked, it seems like, in all his movies. So there's a little double-edged whatever going on.
Now, you don't know it's because he likes it. Maybe he's trying to make a point.
I mean, he certainly did while he's taking his pants off in Starship Troopers and saying, "Hey, you guys are just prudes. Deal with it." But then again, I guess outside of the gross-looking Nazi's penis in this movie, you really don't see dude dicks everywhere in the movie either.
Right. Well, like I said before,
And the one time
Kevin Bacon in Hollow Man, and then this guy in this movie, and
there is the funny scene.
I'm sure there was at least one dick in Showgirls. There had to have been, because there were also male dancers out there wearing their little G-string things.
Yeah. Well, there's the funny scene in this where she shows up, and her Nazi lover is in bed. And he's like, "Where have you been?" And she gets naked. Or no, she gets naked and says, "Oh, I'm glad to be here," or whatever. I don't know.
I
She
like
says,
to just make up for my
cuts
being
to
like
him, like after she's stripped naked, and you just see
an
boner
erection
rising
yeah.
underneath the sheets. Which, of course, you pull the sheets away, and it's actually a gun he's holding in his hand.
But it was a pretty good.
It was a pretty hilarious,
clever joke.
That's kind of Verhoeven, to me, in a nutshell. That's his sense of humor.
Yeah, he doesn't shy away from the dirty jokes.
And also the gore. The movie wasn't Robocop violent.
Right, it didn't shove it in your face the way Robocop was trying to.
Mm-hmm.
And, we don't see a guy get his arms ripped off by an elevator like in Total Recall. But I would say if the violence in this movie was heightened at all, it was only trying to make the hell of war
Reality a little
more apparent, more disgusting.
Because
there's a lot of... even after the Nazis have shot all the people on a boat near the beginning... they're still shooting some dead bodies, and you just see blood spurting out of their faces everywhere when they get shot more. Mm-hmm. And it's oh man, it really makes you want to turn away. It's not the kind of enjoyable violence like in a Hollywood movie, but because he's made Hollywood movies, he kind of knows where that line is. Mm-hmm. He didn't make it fun.
It was interesting that the shooting deaths throughout the entire movie aren't really... They're violent. They're impactful, but there's never it didn't strike me as there's not many headshots.
Right, you never saw a guy take a bullet through the eyeball and see his brains explode out on the wall. Nothing crazy like
until
that.
the end when you've got the bookkeeper.
Yeah, and even that's off camera.
His wife who gets shot in the neck and blood's spraying everywhere.
Yeah,
those
the
two
old lady
deaths
getting shot in the neck was the worst one of the movie.
Which is interesting that those were towards the end.
That's like a fountain that was just going everywhere.
Yeah. Beside the point, the movie you said was kind of a compilation of several stories. I'm sure with the amount of stories that went through everything that happened in World War II, that I'm sure everything in this movie...
It wasn't based on one true story. It was sort of a collection of...
And even if that weren't the truth, I'm sure that just about everything that happened in this movie did happen somewhere in World War II because... Right.
It's based on a true story the same way Fargo is. Some people were murdered in Minnesota one time.
Right.
That's about all you need to go with. I really thought the movie... It had a unique look to it. I guess because it's a World War II movie, you're comparing it to other World War II movies like Saving Private Ryan or like Fury, which have this totally desaturated feel. And this movie had a lot of color. A lot of that...
Exceptionally colorful, yeah.
A lot of that is the red of the Nazi armbands and shit like that.
But also, she wears red a lot.
She wears red a lot. They have a lot of nice, theatrical blue lighting coming through the windows and stuff. It is lit like a Hollywood movie.
It felt like a Spielberg film, which is funny because Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan are very desaturated. One's black and white.
Mm-hmm. It's a little desaturated.
But what was the recent Tom Hanks movie?
Bridge of Spies?
Bridge of Spies.
Yeah.
It was very kind of colorful and had very theatrical kind of light like this where it was like...
I just saw that. I loved that one, yeah.
It had a very similar style. It's clearly shot by a director who knows how to shoot and a DP who knows how to light the hell out of shit in a classical style without overdoing it and making it look too produced. Mm-hmm. It did feel produced, but it didn't feel like it didn't distract. It was actually kind of enjoyable, especially because her character, she's blonde. It looks like they did a lot of color work, post color.
Yeah, perhaps.
just to kind of heighten the saturation and make her like pop. There were times when it was like her eyes are so blue on screen that it was just like it looked almost like it could have been like
It's like
a
so
composite.
vibrant. Yeah, I mean, color people. I'm sure you know, like color people. Jesus, what am I saying? But yeah, they can do like animated masks to highlight certain things, and they can really get in there.
Yeah, but it was given the budget, given the fact that a lot of these actors, I'm sure, were well known in
Europe.
Germany, Holland, in general, yeah, Europe.
Yeah.
Because later I saw them, a lot of the same people in Downfall, and also in
Inglourious Bastards.
Inglourious Bastards, and the Bryan Singer movie, Valkyrie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there were like 4 people I think from this movie that were in Valkyrie.
Yeah,
Looking through the credits,
they
I
always
think I
play
saw it.
Nazis. Unfortunately, they've got the Nazi market covered.
If you're German, that's all you get to do. They didn't have enough of a resistance, I guess.
Yeah, I guess not. But
I don't know. You know, a lot of the same actors were famous in Europe.
no, one of the main Nazi lover. He's also, I don't know if he still is because I haven't seen the new season, but he was a big character in Homeland in
No,
a season or two.
no
But-
cable. I don't get to watch these things.
Yeah, and this is already 10 years have passed since this.
Yeah,
11 years.
it's 11 years now.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it stood up by far. Definitely, it did seem a little bit longer this time watching it.
No, yeah, it was
Just
only like
'cause-
2 hours and 20 minutes or so.
I think
Not
that's
that
what
bad.
I appreciated though, the fact that it wasn't. I was trying to think why this movie's unique versus other World War II movies like Valkyrie or, Valkyrie is probably like a 90-minute movie.
Well, I think a lot
Very
of the
cut
other
and dry.
ones are like you say that like it should be based on a true story just to like be truthful to the whole thing. This is not. This is an amalgam of a lot of different things, and
So they kind of
they had a little freedom to make the drama work out better.
right?
And it's not such a downer like some other war movies can be.
Even though it seems like everywhere they turned, they failed
Yeah.
in this movie. Basically, almost everything.
Even the very end. Can we talk about the last shot?
Yeah, where they're in Israel.
They're in
Well,
Israel.
the movie's bookended, first of all.
Yeah.
Scenes of Israel with the lead actress.
There's a scene,
So you know
yeah.
she lives.
You know, she
First
lives,
scene.
and now she's teaching on like I guess a Jewish settlement camp thing.
Yeah.
It said like on a sign, founded by the survivors of World War II.
And this is
And,
the 50s.
Yeah, it's like 10 years later, and 10, 15, whatever it is. And as she's walking back to her home inside this camp with her family, a bunch of soldiers drive in, and sirens are going off, I think, and like bombs are dropping in the distance. And we're kind of going like, oh, well, I guess the rest of her life is going to be like this because this is Israel versus Palestine now.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
So I guess it's not such a great...
Yeah, it's like
it's not such
on
a
to the
happy
next.
ending. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's sort of showing you that this shit is endless. And when she breaks down at one point and goes like, "What? When does this stop?" It just never stops, and it's
Oh, yeah.
true.
It was pretty powerful acting. I did notice some inconsistencies in the. I don't know if it was the acting or Verhoeven's directing.
Okay.
In terms of everything flows very well.
Yeah, I wanted to call that out.
There were some things that like the characters seemed to kind of go back and forth between like she just survived being on a boat and literally her entire family's like mowed down, and maybe in the next scene's like she's smiling or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like just consistency and like from scene to scene, like I noticed some things were a little, she gets covered in shit, and the next thing she's driving through the street with chocolate in her hand.
Yeah.
She did look a little dour, but not like
Well, I
shell
think
shocked.
the handing out of the chocolate was lifting her spirits again. So I think I don't know. That could be argued. When enough time is spanned in between scenes, you don't know where she's really coming from. But yeah, I think it would have benefited from a little more like through line from scene to scene.
Yeah.
That being said, it does move really well. It's almost 2.5 hours long, and it only felt long at one point because I thought the end was here, and then oh no, we need to open up a whole nother can of worms and wrap up that plot. That felt like, oh Jesus, there's even more to this story.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought it had a really good pace, and a lot of that was using like quick camera to get people through scenes and through the gunfights and stuff. Nothing felt drawn out.
Yeah.
Even if there was a lot of story they crammed into the movie, nothing felt like we're getting too much of one thing and not enough of another.
And the thing, I don't feel like there's a lot of scenes in the movie and a lot of subplots, but nothing to me stood out as something that was unnecessary.
Right.
To tell the story that had to be told, it didn't strike me that anything was extraneous.
There were a lot of characters, and they all had their little arcs, I think, in some way.
Yeah.
And it was, a lot of people die.
At some point, you were like, "Oh, just when I thought the movie was about to end, here's like this whole other plot." And I think it went on for like another 45 minutes from the point you said that.
Maybe a half hour. Yeah.
And I don't know. It makes you wonder, like, for sure, the kind of shit that, I mean, obviously other movies have done it better in the sense, like, the kind of shit that really happened. This is a bit more shown in a Hollywood light, but not, I would say, the Bryan Singer Hollywood light.
No, they didn't gloss over anything, I don't think.
It did have a gloss to the movie that, say, Schindler's List did not have.
Right.
But for a film that's basically almost all subtitles, it feels like an American,
I would say
giant film, just because it was so well made. Does this make you want to see Elle, his latest?
I guess I wanted to see it sort of in the first place.
Right.
But yeah, I want to see another Verhoeven movie that isn't a crazy sci-fi, action adventure movie.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of curious why he left Hollywood, to be honest.
I don't know.
Maybe, did Hollow Man really just end his career? Or did he get so frustrated that everyone hated his movies so much? Like, in terms of, like, Starship Troopers was just hated.
Maybe he's just a European snob. And he's like, these Americans, they don't get me. They don't understand my work.
Yeah. Well, maybe. Or maybe they just stopped getting naked for him.
Well, maybe it was like the 1-2 punch. Well, what did he do in between? No, he did Showgirls, then he did Starship Troopers, and then he did Hollow Man in like 2000 or something.
I could imagine how that would destroy your career. Because
Starship Troopers, a lot of people did not like that.
It was definitely not received well by critics.
I thought it was still a big hit, though.
I don't recall anybody at the time saying they hated it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember some people saying, "Yeah, I just didn't get it," but not. Maybe it was one of those movies you either loved or hated. Some people just thought it was dumb,
right?
Which
some people thought
I
it was
just
just
wanted
another...
to slap those people. But I mean, it was dumb. It was amazing in how dumbly fun it was.
Thought-provoking, perhaps after the fact.
Yeah.
This movie is thought-provoking as it's happening. It really makes you look at the atrocities of war and the way people act to each other and how quickly they'll turn on you. Lots of twists and turns in the
Don't stab me in the back, Mark.
Okay, well, don't.
I'll turn you over.
To the Trump SS.
Yeah.
Or whoever comes next.
Yeah. I don't have too much else to say on this. The music was a little dated. The score was a little dated in a way. It was very big and very Hollywood, but it actually felt like a 90s score.
Really?
To me. At least it did in the beginning, because it was very... It felt very derivative.
Okay. I guess I didn't pay attention all that much. The score is one of the last things I think about.
Here I am ragging on the score. I don't even remember who scored the movie.
Well, that's how unimpressive it was. You didn't look up their name.
Well, it had its moments.
Yeah.
Or some of it. It wasn't memorable. It was kind of like generic dot soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. I think the parts that worked best for me were the more action-oriented parts of the movie, when they're sneaking into the base or whatever. But yeah, as far as I don't remember any of it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna rush out and buy that CD.
Yeah. I think my rating for this movie is probably 8.5, I would say.
Yes, I agree.
8.5 out of 10. Like, it's not like epic level great, like Saving Private Ryan level, but it's got some scenes in there that you don't see in other war films.
Well, yeah, and it's a unique perspective coming from the Dutch point of view.
Yeah.
And for
from a director who lived through World War II.
Oh, did he? He's that old?
He I mean, he was like,
he wasn't like 2.
He was born in 38.
Okay, so right when it started.
I think he was 38. Maybe it might have been.
He was a little
that.
kid then.
He was a little kid, but he was a little boy who basically lived in. I thought he lived in Poland.
He was one of those little shits begging for chocolate at the end.
He was the one who had or the kids that got in the road and made the truck go off.
Which ruined everything.
Which ruined like everyone's plans, and the resistance had struggled ever since. So. Yeah. So that's an interesting. It was kind of like, have you seen The Pianist?
Yes.
Polanski.
And I know you're not talking about that Nazis pianist.
No, I'm not. I saw that for the first time probably 4 years ago.
Oh.
And I recently tried watching it again. I remember watching it and thinking, wow, this is fantastic. And then I saw it again, and I saw what seemed like the limitations of Polanski as a director.
Okay.
Because it was very staged. So, like the second viewing, it struck me as a movie that was done.
It's a little too deliberate.
And I don't know if that was because, he can't, he might be extradited to the United States to go to trial.
Yeah.
So maybe he can't film in certain countries or not, so he can't get out and film wherever he wants.
Mm-hmm. I think that's exactly why.
That's probably exactly why. But it's interesting to see a director who also has the talent that Polanski has versus Verhoeven, who they kind of come from critically different places.
Mm-hmm.
Verhoeven's not known for his beautiful epic masterpieces. He's known for popcorn movies of the 80s. Magical popcorn movies that were unique and better than the rest of the class, but still. And whereas Polanski had Chinatown and a very distinct style.
Right.
I don't know why I'm comparing those two. Maybe it's because
Well,
they're
they're
both
fresh
expatriates of Hollywood.
True.
And there's not many of those.
It's World War II from the European
And he survived
perspective.
World War II. Two directors who both went through World War II.
Yeah.
And they're still alive today. So.
Well, I don't have anything else to add.
Yeah.
I think I've said my piece.
I definitely highly recommend this movie, and I feel like really no one has seen it.
Right. I mean,
It's a hard movie to see.
It was kind of on the short list for Oscars back in 2006.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It did not get on the final list.
But
I mean, it's easy to see why.
I don't think it's on Blu-ray. The DVD did not look great in scenes. It looked highly compressed.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the actual DVD.
2.5 hour movie.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the bit rate or whatever is, but the longer movies, sometimes they do have to crunch them down to fit on the disc.
It's got subtitles, but it feels like a Hollywood action film.
Yeah.
With drama, obviously.
I would recommend it. And it's daunting sometimes to hear it's like, oh shit, it's almost 2.5 hours long. it's like I don't want to get into it, but really once it gets going, I didn't feel the length at all.
Yeah.
I only felt the girth.
Only the girth. Well, on that note, take it easy.
Yeah.
Have fun.
All right.
You stay classy. I'm talking to you, Mark, not the audience.
Oh, well, you pointed it. Okay.
I mean, I could be pointing it. All right,
You're pointing
anyway.
around it.
Later.